So Perry's going to start us off, followed by Dan and myself. Perry and Faye will talk, as I understand, more about the rhetorical aspects and Robbie's presentation. And I'll focus more heavily on the audience interaction, but we'll all cover pretty much everything. So Perry, if you'd like to start.
Well, one thing I opened looking at was Robbie had, not concerned, but he wanted to know somewhat about his accent. And while it doesn't sound like you come from Ohio, I don't find that your accent blurs your meaning. It's good. And in a world where most of us kind of sound alike, I think it helps create a brand. It gives you a separation that should be something that you keep. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. You roll your R a little bit, but it just doesn't distract from the meaning. Robbie paints good word pictures. Paints stories like the story about being back in India, and the words that were used for motivation, I thought, and the business owner's story also painted. Robbie was precise. When you want to convince somebody to do something, what better way than to give some statistics or proposals? Robbie had a good proposal. Gave us a hypothetical schedule so we could visualize what it would be like if we actually took in his proposal. So that shows Robbie's technical side very well. Robbie, one thing you could work on is when you punctuate a sentence, like when you say yes, like you say a string of words and you say yes, what you need to do is give it a little bit of pause to make it more effective. When you said another time, yes, I know it's going to be tough, you said it in the same vocal level as you said the rest of the sentence. So I didn't get all the mileage that I could have out of that sarcastic phrase. You spoke to the truth, and that's always good. You said something that many of us think but don't necessarily want to say, which is, there are some Saturdays I get up and I don't want to go. And what better way to convince somebody, again, to speak to the truth, because you reach people on an emotional level, and if you're going to persuade anyone to do anything, you have to reach them emotionally. One thing you could, I think, do in this particular presentation is have a little more fun. You were very serious. There was no smile. When we talked about recognizing people, you could have perhaps gave some examples and maybe made it kooky and had a little fun with it. And last, when you did your audience section, you made a good facilitation by agreeing with the audience. You always agree with the audience. If the audience says, the sky is green, you say yes, but only after a bottle of scotch. So you did that. Whenever anyone in the audience said anything, you agreed with them. Good facilitation rule, good speech, good facilitation. Thank you.
Robbie, I'm going to be looking at your sincerity, your voice, eye contact, and how persuasive you came across. For me, anytime you're going to persuade someone to accept your point of view, you've got to believe in it yourself. And you've got to be sincere in your presentation. And that's one of the strong points that you have. You come across as being very sincere. Your demeanor is definitely replete with pleasantness. And I believe you really try first rate to be excellent in that respect. You had practical use of words. Everything that you said was understandable in terms of your word. And commenting on your accent, too, I did not find it to be distracting at all. Thought it was, your words were very clear. Your inflections and pitch, like Perry said, could have been improved. You have some good, strong comments, but I think you could make them even better and really emphasize certain key points of your talk. Your eyes swept across the entire room, and I got the feeling that everyone in the room was engaged in what you were saying because you were looking at each person. Your persuasiveness. I think that because you believed in your concept, you had lots of good ideas that you shared with us. You gave examples of what some of the changes would be. However, I think that you had a lot of material to cover, and you had two strong suggestions to make, and I felt a little bit rushed getting through them. To me, it would have been better if you'd taken one and developed it even more fully to give us more examples and really persuade us why we should do skits, because they're fun. And that, I think, would have really improved your speech. Did you appeal to us? You did talk about the desire to have fun, and that's something that everybody likes to do in our Toastmasters meetings, which was a good thing. Overall, I think your speaking style lends itself very well to really whatever type of speech you choose to do. You come across as being very strong in your present. You were very comfortable in your movements. Your gestures were natural. And just make sure you use all the techniques of a good speaker to really get your point across and really convince us that, yes, we need to do this.
Ravi, I'm going to focus on your interaction with the audience, and in order to do that, I'm going to need to make up a word repeatedly. Ravi, you repeatedly delivered quality in this presentation. In other words, the quality you delivered exceeded the requirements in the manual for the speech, particularly, I think, in terms of audience interaction. What was especially effective is that even before the Q&A session started, you were including us into your speech. Now, there are two ways to include an audience into the speech, and one of them is to interact and have the audience talk. And that's the common way, it seems. But I think a more subtle and more deeper way is to invite the audience into your world. You were saying to the effect, imagine with me this situation. So you were playing with us. You were acting out a possible scenario of this is how a SML meeting could work, and come along and join me. And I think we were all joining you in that imagination. So not only were you interacting with us, but we were there on your terms rather than just asking any old question we wanted. So by the time we got to the question and answer period, we were already on the same page with you, and I think that facilitated things greatly. Notice there were not that many people asking questions. One way you could get more people to ask is right before the Q&A period, just say a couple of controversial things. Maybe this may be a really tough idea to handle, so I'll ask you to go out on a limb with me as you consider this. And restate your point and pause for a bit. Let us soak it in and then ask for questions. So by then we will have already thought about what questions we could be asking. Be dwelling on your last point. I like the way you handled audience interaction. You didn't miss a beat on answering any questions. With Keith, what you did is you asked him if you had sufficiently addressed his question and allowed him to confirm, no, he still has one more thing that he wants to clarify with you. And then with everybody else, you were just on the ball. Perhaps the best thing you said during your audience interaction part is, I don't know. Few people want to say, I don't know, but it's the best possible thing to say when you can't recall that information. What are the alternatives to saying, I don't know? You could either dodge the question by changing the subject, or you could make something up. And either way, that is dishonest. No offense to any politicians. If they're so overall, excellent presentation. Now open it up to audience questions.
Yeah, 1 minute to rebut.
Oh, right.
I really like the fact that you pointed out the brand. I will keep that in mind when I give my next speech or the style that I'm developing. I was looking for a word and you gave me that word, the brand. The word pictures, thank you. I have to admit I did not have a lot of fun segments into my speech. And if I were to do the speech again, or if I come with the next training speech, I will come up with some, well, if I'm talking about skits, I may have something in my speech. So that was really good. Thank you for that information on making it sincere, and I will have to admit that I could just take one point and make it more persuasive. And I also like the fact that I was sort of short of words when I did not have a lot of questions. So next time, yes, there will be controversial question. Thank you, Nate.
Now, audience questions. Yes.
Robbie, as someone who is from Ohio, when I traveled around the world my entire life and I have 1,000 accents, your speech patterns and your enunciation is beautiful. The last thing you ever need to worry about is people not understanding what you're saying.
Thank you, Barbara.
Any others? Yeah.
Robbie, I want to just make a comment about the handouts that you had. The first two that I looked at, I thought, okay, they have quite a bit of information, and if I'm going to start reading this, then I'm going to be distracted from listening to it, the words that are coming out of your mouth. So I'd suggest that you do more of an outline, bold type thing. However, the third handout of breaking down our meeting I thought was excellent. How could he have taken the time to present this much information in such a concise manner so I could visually see the timing of it? I did appreciate that part of the handout. It's excellent. Thanks for the research.
And Sakis.
Thank you. And actually, just to tag on to Mary, I don't know if you noticed when the handouts were working their way around, people were struggling with which pages to get. And even though you did have them sort of crisscross, but I would suggest even staple them together, put a paperclip on them, so people don't have to guess. I mean, know which pages. That way they don't waste time and lose their attention when we're speaking.
As a guest, I kind of liked your speech because I was wondering, we're all advanced Toastmasters. There's no icebreaker speech here ever, right? So how would you get to know people? And I really appreciated your speech because that's something that crossed my mind when I came in, was how will I know about all these people here and how will I get to know them? And I think your speech of your suggestion of recognizing people and talking a bit about them periodically is a really great idea, so everyone will get to know each other. And thank you for giving this speech on the day I'm a guest.
Now turn this over to the general evaluator.